What's up, everyone? I just kind of wanted to make this quick discussion about console exclusives, because there's been a lot of kind of discourse around that lately. And I think, I have quite mixed feelings on it in general, but I think what I was mainly trying to talk about was the kind of hypocrisy around it that I see. So, like console exclusives have pretty much always been around, and I think in the old days they were like a much bigger deal because companies would really sell their hardware based on these exclusives, and to an extent that's still true. But I think what the big thing was that there was there were a lot of companies that made their own consoles and made their own games. And this was a huge deal. Nintendo pretty much have been doing the same business model for like the longest time. But Sega were also pretty influential in that field as well. The original Xbox, I mean, the entire reason why Xbox even really became a thing was because of Halo. The first Halo game sold so well that it practically made the original Xbox, enough of a success to where they would consider continuing to make consoles, which of course they did. But and obviously that game wasn't made by Microsoft, but it was a big license for them, and it turned out to be really lucrative, obviously. And I think that there was a definite loyalty in those days. As well, I think the console wars it's just a history of repeating itself. Like, you see the same arguments about the same things. You kind of wish people would just grow up and stop arguing about something so insignificant. But at the same time, there was a real sense of I don't know, loyalty, I guess, that people had that has kind of never gone away. And I think what it is that attitude is kind of showing its age in the modern world, because video games aren't the novelty that they were back then. Consoles come out every couple of years, and the differences between them, let's admit, the differences between them get smaller, especially because in a lot of ways, technological advancement in video games is reaching kind of an apex to an extent. There's only so far that you'll be able to go with graphics and stuff. But this tribalism is still around, and you see it, especially in the same big console war that's been going on for 20 years now. The Sony versus Microsoft. Who has the better games? Who has the better system? And it's gotten ridiculous. And what I mean is that it's no longer about discussing the pros and cons of each system and coming to a reasoned, conclusion, if indeed it ever was, because it's never been the most civil discussion in the universe. Let's not kid ourselves there. But at the very least, there used to be a veneer of civility to it, and a veneer of actually discussing the pros and cons of something. And until it sort of just became complete brain rot, where you just defend the product that is your favorite for no real reasons, and the hypocrisy around it. And what I mean is that I saw this when the Nintendo Direct happened, and Nintendo got a couple games announced, namely Bayonetta 3, which of course is a Switch exclusive. Now, Nintendo are in a kind of separate space because their library has traditionally been made up mostly of exclusive games, many of the big name ones being made by Nintendo themselves or developers that Nintendo have got a lot of history with. But Bayonetta, of course, was originally on all kinds of platforms back in the day. I believe it was on Xbox 360 and Windows, and a number of other things. But then when the Bayonetta 2 came around, it was Nintendo who really sort of like put money into making that a thing, and as such, it was a Wii U exclusive. Didn't sell very well because, the Wii U. Do I need to say more? But of course, it got ported to Switch in 2017 when the Switch came out, and it's been pretty successful since then. So, the hypocrisy that I saw was that I saw people saying, like, I can't believe Bayonetta 3 is going to be a Switch exclusive. Don't you know that the PS5 could get its potential much better? Or maybe Xbox fanboys saying the same kind of thing. And like, you got to think about this, is that they will perfectly happily, talk up the PlayStation, for its exclusives. Like, you gotta get a PlayStation for God of War and Bloodborne and fucking Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever. All these, we have all the best games. And they will like pretty much laugh out exclusivity, not kind of acknowledging the kind of inherently anti-consumer nature of it, but be like, you just gotta get a PlayStation, bruh. You just gotta stop being a scrub who owns another console and get a PlayStation, bro. And they don't see the irony when they complain that like a Switch exclusive isn't on PlayStation because we have better graphics. And I'm just like, well, okay, like, if that's the logic we're going to use, every game should be a PC exclusive, because there isn't any console in existence that can run a game better than a high-end PC can. Obviously, that's a ridiculous argument, but it's where the sort of logical conclusion of that argument goes, and then that kind of brings me on to like the inherent anti-consumer nature of console exclusives, because like there isn't any reason for them in this day and age. Like we live in such a decentralized world in terms of consuming media, where like it's not even your machine, your console isn't even really its function isn't necessarily to play discs or cartridges. In the old days, it's you download. Most people do. Most people will download digital copies of a game, and on PC you'll do the same. And so, like, the actual hardware itself really is mattering less and less. So really, instead of being like part of brand identity and something that was unique to that console and what it could do, exclusives nowadays are pretty much just like gatekeeping a good game behind a price hiked console. Like, well, you want to play Deathloop. Actually, Deathloop's not exclusive, is it? I was thinking of Returnal. That was the other one I really wanted to play. If you want to play Returnal or Demon Souls remake, or the new Horizon Forbidden West, or any of these like games that are coming out on PS5, like, you got to get a PS5. And they're pretty much only basing their business model on exclusives, because they're not offering people anything that can't be offered by a PC or by an Xbox. They don't really functionally have anything that those other consoles don't, or those other platforms in general. And not to mention the fact that they're going to be price hiking games up to like $70 anyway, so they're just making things more expensive. for you, the average consumer. And like, what are you really getting for it apart from okay, graphics that are good, but not graphics that can't be done by an Xbox or by a PC. And it's just an inherently anti-consumer practice, really, isn't it? And it's because like gaming companies have gotten increasingly more greedy and increasingly less concerned with giving you any sort of meaningful choice in in how you play. It seems like at first there's more choice, but in actuality, in many ways, there's less choice than there's ever been. Because it's not meaningful choice. It's like, well, you can buy this game without its DLC package, but you'll be missing out on all this stuff that other people get because they did get the DLC package or whatever. Which is, I mean, if you can't see what's wrong with that, like, I don't really know what to tell you. It's because we've let game companies get to this point. We've let them, have this unchecked greed for so long. And the console fanboys, in many ways, are the symptom of this problem. They've been raised on all this corporate propaganda to just follow the way that the culture is going, and not really think. Don't think, just consume. That's the mantra. And console exclusives are like the last bastion of this. They're the last bastion of this kind of mindset. It's the inevitable point that it was always going to end up at. Mindlessly defending a company, just because they're gatekeeping, software, and it is essentially software at this point, behind their own proprietary hardware, which, by the way, you can't really get anyway in most places because of them. Well, because of a lot of things, scalpers, and partially caused by the companies themselves choosing to launch the consoles at a pretty bad time, knowing that there'd be a superconductor shortage. So it's just a shitty situation. But I think it's just sad seeing the symptoms of this kind of thing. The brain dead console fanboys who go to bat for executives that don't really give a fuck about them, just because they make the game that I like, and I like their console because it's part of my identity. I'm using it as a substitute for a personality. And when you have, in many ways, and this is going to be my final point, console exclusives are kind of a cop-out marketing strategy. They're kind of a cheat. It's like, well, we don't have any real, actual selling points for our, shiny new console. It doesn't have anything that other consoles or other platforms can't offer. So fuck it. We'll just spend like a couple $1 billion to get the rights to these beloved series, or to some exciting new IP that's being hyped up. And then if people want to play the game, they'll have to buy our console. They have no choice. If they want the thing they like, they've just got to obey us. Do what we want. Which is just, it's blatant. And to be fair, I think a lot of people do see what's wrong with this. I can't pretend that the majority of gamers are happy with the situation, or any of these situations. But it is those particularly brain dead console warrior types, who, as I stated earlier, haven't really changed, But it's got a lot sadder. And it's got sadder because there's less of a distinct identity to what they're defending than there used to be. There's less of a community. It's just brainlessly defending a corporation, which, there are so many better ways you could spend your time, dude. They're not going to notice you. Sony Sony Senpai is not going to notice you. Like, it's not going to happen. So, you know, just have some critical thinking and think, should I really defend this practice? Or should I in fact think, man, these execs are getting pretty desperate and they deserve some criticism. Just think about it. That'll be it for me. Peace out.